Hey everyone, my name is Anne and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to crochet this really comfy coat sweater. I'll be making a small in this video, but sizes X small to 3X large are included in this tutorial, as well as the written pattern that I have linked down below. So here are the supplies you're going to be needing. So now we're going to get started on working this pattern. We're going to be doing the bodice portion first. I have my 5mm hook, and then this is my category 4 yarn. The first thing that we're going to do, of course, is just make a slip knot. You can do that any way you would like. After this slip knot, we're now going to be making a chain of 57. Because I'm making a size small, I'm making a chain of 57, but I have just located at the bottom of the screen with all the chains that you need to make for each size. So to make a chain, I'm just going to yarn over and then just pull through. That's our first chain. Doing this again, I'm just going to yarn over and pull through. And now you just want to continue doing this until you have a total of 57 chains. So once you have finished up working your chain of 57, as you guys can see, we're now going to be beginning on row 1. So to do row 1, the first thing that we're going to do is skip this first chain, and then inserting a hook into the second chain, we are going to work a single crochet into each chain across. To work a single crochet, you just want to insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Doing this again, I'm just going to insert my hook into the next chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Into that next chain, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. And now just continue to work these single crochets into each chain all the way across. And so I'm going to meet you guys back once I have reached the end. So I have now finished working all the way down my chain with these single crochets. Once you have reached the end of your work, you can just chain 1 and turn. This chain 1 does not count as a stitch, it is just our turning chain. So now moving on to row 2, we are going to skip our turning chain that we just made, and inserting a hook into this very first stitch, we are going to be working single crochets into each stitch all the way down our row, just as I am doing right here. So I'm going to see you guys back once I have reached the end. Once you have worked all the way across row 2 with these single crochets, I am now just going to chain 1 and turn our work. Once again, this chain 1 does not count as our first stitch. So to continue this pattern for our bodice section, you just want to repeat row 2 with these single crochets, really easy to do. You want to repeat row 2 until you have a total of 96 rows, or you can make this however long or short you would like. I'm just choosing to make a total of 96 rows. So I'm going to quickly work up my back panel, and then I'm going to see you guys back once I am all done. Okay guys, so I have made it back here with my 96 rows with these single crochets, as you guys can see. This is where we started, and then I just worked all the way up until I had 96 rows in total. So this is basically going to be our back panel. So from here, we are now going to be working the front panel, and we're actually not going to be cutting and fastening off. We're going to move directly into working that first shoulder strap. From here, you do not actually want to cut and fasten off. We're actually going to move directly to working on that first shoulder strap. So let's go ahead and get started. So now we're going to be working on our first shoulder strap, which is fairly simple. I'm just going to chain 1 and turn my work. Beginning on row 1, into this very first stitch, we are going to work those regular single crochets just as we were doing before. The only difference here is that we're only going to be working into 12 stitches across, not all the way across, just into 12 stitches. So I have just finished up working my 12 stitches going across my row. I'm just going to chain 1 and turn my work. Now moving on to row 2, into this very first stitch, we're going to work 2 single crochets for an increase. What I mean by an increase is that into this first stitch, I'm going to work 1 single crochet, and then into this very first stitch, I'm going to work another single crochet. And now by the end of the row, you should now have a total of 13 stitches instead of 12 stitches. But I'm just going to do these regular single crochets all the way across, and then I'm going to see you guys back once I reach the end. As usual, I'm just going to chain 1 and turn my work once I've finished up row 2. So moving on to row 3, we're into this very first stitch. All we're going to do is just single crochet into each stitch all the way across. Nothing fancy at all, just single crocheting into each stitch across. I'll now just chain 1 and turn my work. So to continue this pattern for our first shoulder strap, you just want to repeat alternating row 2 with that increase and then row 3 with that regular row of single crochets. You want to repeat row 2 and row 3 until you have a total of 32 rows for your shoulder strap. So I'm just going to quickly work up my 32 rows, and then I'm going to see you guys back once I am all done. So I have just finished up working my 32 rows, as you guys can see. The first side should have stayed a nice clean straight edge while we increased on the other side coming in. Now that we have done all of our increases, we're going to stop doing the increases and just repeat row 2 with those regular single crochet rows until you now have a total of 96 rows. Which is going to be the same amount of rows that we had for the back panel. So you should be able to go all the way down to the bottom of your back panel so that it matches up. And if you change the rows for the back panel, if you did more or less, you do just want to make sure that the front panel has the equal amount of rows. So I hope all of that made sense. I'm just going to work regular single crochet rows until 96 rows in total. And then I'm going to see you guys back to cut and fasten off. So I have just finished up working my 96 rows. This is what my front panel is looking like. We did no increases. So we did the increases for the first 32 rows, and then we just finished up doing regular rows of single crochets until we reached the end. I did go ahead, cut and fasten off, as you guys can see, and this should reach the very bottom of your back panel. It should even up at the end, just like this. So now once we have our first front panel all done, we're now going to go ahead and move on to the second front panel. So let's go ahead and get started on that. So now we're going to be moving on to working at the second front panel. Over here I have my hook and my yarn, and the first thing I'm going to do is just make a slip knot as you normally would. Now from here, we are going to count 32 stitches from the first worked stitch. So looking over here, this is a worked stitch, and starting from the first unworked stitch, we're going to count 32 stitches. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Once you have counted those 32 stitches, you just want to insert your hook into that next stitch, which would be the 33rd stitch, just like this. Just insert your hook, take your yarn and slip stitch to secure. To do that, you just want to yarn over and just pull through everything. That is our slip stitch to secure our hook in place. Now beginning into this very first stitch, we're going to work single crochets into each stitch all the way across. You should have a total of 12 stitches, just as we did on the opposite side. So just beginning into this first stitch, I'm going to work these single crochets. Then I will see you guys back once I have reached the end. Now I'm just going to chain one and turn my work. Now moving on to row 2, we are going to do an increase row. But last time we did an increase into the first stitch, but this time we are actually going to do an increase into the very last stitch. So what I'm going to do is that I will work single crochets into each stitch all the way across until I have one stitch at the end remaining, and then I'm going to show you guys how to do that increase. Now that I have one stitch at the end of my row, I'm going to work 2 single crochets to do that increase, and then just chain one and turn my work. Now moving on to row 3. Row 3 is fairly simple, just beginning to this first stitch, we're just going to single crochet into each stitch all the way across. We're not going to be doing any increase. Just chain and turn. So very similar to what we did last time, you just want to repeat those last 2 rows, which is row 2 with our increase and row 3 with that regular single crochet row. You want to do that until you have 32 rows in total. The same thing should happen. You want your one side will stay a straight edge while the other side is going to come out as we do those increases. But I'm going to quickly work up my 32 rows, and then I'm going to see you guys back once I am all done. So this is what my work is looking like after I have finished up my 32 rows with our increases. Now the same thing that we did for the first side, we're just going to work regular single crochet rows until you have reached the very bottom of your work, which would be 96 rows for me. So I'm going to go ahead, repeat row 2 with our regular single crochets until I have 96 in total. And then I'm going to see you guys back to cut and fasten off. So I have just finished up working my 96 rows, alternating, well, just working these regular single crochets until I reach the end. I did just go ahead, cut and fasten off. And now this is the end for our first and second front panel. This is our entire bodice. We have the back panel, then both of our front panels. So from here, we are now just going to set this entire piece aside, and we're going to get started on working the sleeves. So let's go ahead and get started on that. So now we're going to begin working on the sleeves. The first thing that I'm going to do is make a slip knot. You can do this any way you would like. After this slip knot, we're going to be making a chain of 42. Once you have finished up your chain of 42, we're just going to run one of our fingers all the way down our chain, making sure that it is not twisted at all. Then we're going to slip stitch into the very first chain that we made. To slip stitch, you just want to insert your hook into that first chain, and then just yarn over and pull through both of those loops to connect. Just like this, so it should have formed a very large circle. Beginning on row 1, we're just going to chain one and turn our work. Now skipping this first chain and inserting a hook into the second chain, we're just going to be working these single crochets into each chain all the way around until the end of our work. Once I have reached the end, I'm going to show you guys how to join each row. But I'm just going to work up these single crochets, and then I'm going to see you guys back in a little bit. So once you have finished working these single crochets all the way around your chain, to join each and every row for the rest of our sleeve, you just want to slip stitch into this very first stitch that we made. So I'm just going to insert my hook and then just yarn over and pull through everything to make that slip stitch. That's how we're going to join each row. From here, you can just chain one and turn your work around. So moving on to row 2, and this is actually going to be row 2 to row 5. All we're going to do is just beginning into this first stitch, we are going to single crochet into each stitch all the way around our work. And then once I reach the end, I'm going to show you guys how to join the row one more time. So once again, I have worked all the way around my row, and to join row 2, all I'm going to do is just slip stitch into this very first stitch, and then chain 1 and turn my work. That'll be row 2 to row 5, and then for row 6, we're going to start doing some decreases. So I'm going to go ahead, work up these rows, and then I'm going to see you guys back for row 6. So this is what my work is looking like after 5 rows, and now we're going to be moving on to row 6, which is going to be our decrease row. Over here, I have already joined and chained and turned my work around. Now into this very first stitch, we are going to be working a single crochet decrease. So the same thing that we have been doing before, I'm just going to insert, pull up a loop, into that next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 for our decrease. Now from here, we're going to be working regular single crochets all the way around our cuff or all the way around our sleeve until you have 2 stitches at the end remaining. And to those 2 stitches, I'm going to show you guys how to do that decrease one more time. When you have these 2 stitches at the very end of your row, we're going to do another decrease. We're just going to do that decrease. So you should have decrease into the first stitch and then also into the last stitch. I'm just going to slip stitch to secure, chain, and then turn my work around. So to continue this pattern for our sleeve, you just want to repeat this pattern of working 5 regular rows. Then on that 6th row, you want to do that decrease. You want to keep on doing those 6 repeat rows until you have a total of 36 rows for your sleeve. So I'm going to work up my 36 rows. Again, you just want to do 5 regular rows, then a decrease, 5 regular rows, and then a decrease. Keep on doing that till you have 36 rows in total. I'm going to work that up, and then wait to see you guys back once I am all done. So I have now made it back here with my 36 rows. I did a decrease every 6th row, and then this is what our decreases are looking like. One side should have stayed a straight edge, while the other one is where we did our decreases. So now that we have finished with all of our decreases, the next thing just to finish off our sleeve is that we are going to repeat those regular rows of single crochets, not doing any kind of decreases, until you have a total of 85 rows. Once you have those 85 rows, you can just cut and fasten off. But that is pretty self-explanatory. I'm just going to work up my regular single crochet rows until I have 85 in total. Then I'm going to see you guys back once I am all done. So I have now made it back here with my finished sleeve. I have a total of 85 rows. I did cut and fasten off once I reached the very end. And so this is what our entire sleeve is looking like so far. Once you have made one sleeve, you of course want to repeat this a second time for the second sleeve, which I have already made, just like this. Now that we have both of our sleeves, we're just going to set these pieces aside, and we're going to go ahead and get started on working the collar. So now we're going to get started on working the front border. The first thing I'm going to do is just make a slip knot. Once you have made this slip knot, you just want to insert your hook right into the corner of your cardigan. Just insert your hook and then slip stitch to secure, so just yarn over and pull through everything. From here, we're going to chain 1 and begin on our foundation row. To do this foundation row, beginning into this very first row, we are just going to be working single crochets into each row all the way around until you have met with the opposite corner. To do that, into this first row, I'm going to work 1 single crochet. And then into this next row, I'm going to work another single crochet. I'm going to single crochet into the next row, and then into the next row, and then you just want to keep on working these single crochets up and around until you have met the opposite end. So I'm going to quickly work that up, and then I'm going to see you guys back once I have reached this point. So I have just finished working my foundation row with these single crochets coming all the way around, and then on the very end of my work. Now I'm just going to chain 1 and turn my work. So now moving on to row 1, this is going to be a little bit weird. The first thing that we're going to do is that we're going to work single crochets a third of the way up our front panel. Then we're going to work half double crochets, and then we're going to work double crochets coming all the way around. And then we're going to do half double crochets and then single crochets. To show you what that's going to be looking like, into this first stitch, I'm going to work single crochets going a third of the way up my front panel. Once you feel like you have worked single crochets for the third of the way, for the next third we're going to be working half double crochets. To work a half double crochet, I'm just going to yarn over, insert my hook into that stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, and then just pull through all 3. Doing this again, you just want to yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And now just do this for the next third of the way. And so I just finished up working these half double crochets. So we did our single crochets, and then I just finished our half double crochets. Now the next thing that we're going to do is that we're going to work double crochets, and we're going to do these double crochets coming all the way around until you have basically met the same point of where you started those double crochets. So to work a double crochet, all I'm going to do is just yarn over, insert my hook into that stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through 2, very similar to the half double crochet. Doing that one more time, I'm just going to insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through 2. Do this all the way up and around until you have met the basically where you began on the opposite side. So I just finished working my double crochets. I went all the way up and around. Now to finish up this row, the last thing that we're going to do is that we're going to do that third of the way of half double crochets and then the third of the way of the single crochets to finish off, and then you can just chain 1 and turn your work. So I just chained and turned my work around. That is the end of row 2. And now to continue this pattern, you basically just want to repeat row 2. So wherever you worked a single crochet, work a single crochet. Wherever you worked a half double crochet, work a half double crochet. And then wherever you did those double crochets, work a double crochet. You just want to repeat row 2, and I'm actually not sure how many rows I'm going to do yet. So I'm either going to put that on the screen, or you can just wait until the next clip where I'm going to show you the amount of rows that I worked. I'm just going to work my rows up, and then I'm going to see you guys back once I am all done. Alright, so I have made it back here, and I ended up doing a total of 7 rows. Then I just flipped the collar over so that now it's folded all the way down my work. So this is all that we're going to do for our front border. The next thing that we're going to do is just seam everything all together in the assembly process. So let's go ahead and get started on that. So now we're going to be moving on to working the assembly. Over here I have my cardigan that's on the side. And I also have my large tapestry needle with some yarn. What we're going to do first is that we are going to whip stitch all the way up the side of our work until we have 6.5 inches from the top remaining. And that 6.5 inches from the top is going to leave room for our sleeves. You of course want to do this on the opposite side as well, starting to the very bottom corner, whip stitch all the way up the 2 sides until you have 6.5 inches remaining. So to whip stitch our work, I'm just going to insert my hook or insert my needle right into the very bottom corner, into the first stitch, and then into the next stitch of the back panel. I'm just going to pull all the way through. Coming all the way back around, I'm going to insert my needle into the next 2 stitches, and then just pull all the way through. into the next 2 stitches, pulling through to the next 2 stitches, whoops, just like this. Now once again, you just want to whip stitch all the way up the side until you have those 6.5 inches from the top using a ruler. I'm going to go ahead, work that up, and then I'm going to see you guys back once I am all done. So this is what my work is looking like after I have seamed both edges of my side. I went all the way up here. Then I left the 6.5 inches for our armholes. Did that, of course, on the opposite side as well. This is my 6.5 inches that is left at the very top of our work. Now the very last thing that we're going to seam together are both of our sleeves. So what we're going to do is that we're going to place the base of our sleeve right next to the armhole, just like this, and then just whip stitch all the way around your sleeve until the end, and then cut and fasten off. You want to do that for the same side or for the opposite side as well. Just take your sleeve, place it right up against the armhole, just like this. Whip stitch all the way around until the end of your work. That is going to be the very last thing that we're going to be doing, so I'm going to quickly work that all up, and then I'm going to see you guys back for our finished sweater. So I have just finished up seaming both of my sleeves to my bodice, just like this. I went all the way around. I also did that for the other side as well, of course, just like this. And now that we have both of our sides and our sleeves all put together, that is now the end of our project. You can just flip this over to finish, and the last thing you would need to do is just weave in all of your loose ends to finish, and that'll be the end of your sweater. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and I hope to see you guys back next time. Bye! If you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. If you bought this pattern, it would be super helpful if you left a positive review. But that's all, guys. Bye!